1. Screen uniformity was better on the Alienware QD-OLED monitor. While both monitors did not suffer from any bending or dirty screen effect, our 42-inch LG C2 review sample manifested obvious color tinting on full-screen white background, whereas the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor was absolutely pristine throughout. We half expected the QD-OLED monitor to pull ahead in terms of dark uniformity too, but LG Display seemed to have improved the near-black uniformity on its 2022 WRGB OLED panels, so both our review units were roughly equal in this respect. Note that we had to use different test pattern levels to obtain similar light output just above black, because near-black gamma on the Alienware QD-OLED monitor tracked brighter than reference in SDR or Standard Dynamic Range mode, which couldn't be corrected through calibration. This caused SDR dark scenes on the Alienware AW3423DW monitor to appear more washed out than on the LG 42C2, which could be 1D LUT and 3D LUT calibrated to deliver accurate gamma tracking and colors, matching the shadow detail seen on a dual-layer LCD reference monitor. However, because of the absence of white subpixels in QD-OLED's true RGB subpixel configuration, the Alienware AW3423DW monitor did not exhibit any visible near-black flashing artifacts, not only on this moving quantization test pattern developed by Stacy Spears of Spears & Mansell fame, but also in this challenging scene from the 4K Blu-ray of Monster Hunter, which I had to buy myself for testing purposes, so I'm going to keep showing it in my videos to share the love. At the other end of the contrast ratio spectrum, the 34-inch QD OLED monitor delivered a higher peak brightness and full screen brightness than the LG 42C2 OLED, resulting in a more impactful HDR presentation. This Spears & Mansell demo footage may not be the fairest comparison, since its 16:9 aspect ratio did not utilize the full 21:9 screen of the Alienware AW3423DW monitor. So here's a clip from Halo Infinite instead to show you the difference, however subtle it may be, due to how our eyes perceive brightness in a logarithmic manner. Note that due to a paradoxical reversal in the respective ABL curves at around 10% APL, on more than a few occasions the LG 42C2 would look brighter than the Alienware QD OLED monitor in some HDR scenes. However, with a higher peak and full screen brightness, naturally, the Alienware AW3423DW featured a more relaxed ABL or automatic brightness limiter compared to the LG 42C2, as demonstrated using our own custom-authored ABL test pattern. The eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that we had to stretch the image on the Alienware monitor to fill up its 21:9 screen. Translated to PC monitor use, the 42-inch LG C2 would display more apparent dimming when going to a full-screen white background compared to the 34-inch QD OLED monitor, especially when you use the HDR True Black 400 mode on the Alienware. While on this subject, the LG 42C2 would gradually dim down over time to protect against OLED burn-in as long as there are static elements on screen, whereas the Alienware AW3423DW monitor didn't seem to partake in such auto-dimming behavior. Of course, you can go into the service menu of the LG 42C2 to disable the auto-dimming, but you will risk voiding your warranty and increasing the risk of permanent screen burn, so it is not a straightforward solution for many people. On the other hand, the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor comes with a 3-year premium warranty that covers burn-in, and seems extremely resistant to image retention. Here, I'm displaying a peak white 10% window at full blast in HDR or high dynamic range on both the LG 42C2 and the Alienware AW3423DW for about 10 seconds, before switching to a full field gray slide. As you can see, the 42-inch LG C2 continued to carry a rectangular afterglow, which took some time to clear away, while there's virtually no image retention on the Alienware QD-OLED monitor at all. Due to QD-OLED's true RGB subpixel structure compared to WRGBs, the Alienware AW3423DW was able to render brightly saturated colors better than the LG 42C2. Now, I know I coined the term white subpixel dilution effect back in 2019, but contrary to popular belief, bright saturated colors don't tend to white out on high-end LG OLEDs including the C2, because the Alpha 9 processor is programmed with an algorithm which works to dial down the brightness of such colors so that they still look saturated, just darker. Of course, the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor doesn't need to make this concession at all, at least up to the panel's limit, thanks to QD-OLED's true RGB subpixel layout. Talking of which, the triangular arrangement of red, green, and blue subpixels on QD-OLED displays such as the Alienware monitor does not play well with conventional subpixel rendering techniques which have been developed for monitors with regular RGB stripe layout, resulting in visible color bleeding around some edges and hence blurrier text. The WRGB subpixel structure on the LG42C2 is largely accepted to be more palatable than QD-OLED for rendering text, although you can experiment with clear type and scaling to mitigate the issue on both displays. For gaming, input lag on the LG42C2 measured lower than on the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor, not only at 60 frames per second, but also at 120 frames per second. Please bear in mind that these figures were measured over HDMI, since the Leobotna 4K tester we and most other reviewers use only supports HDMI output but not DisplayPort. The DisplayPort 1.4 connection on the Alienware monitor provides higher bandwidth than its HDMI 2.0 port, so input lag could potentially be lower over DisplayPort with higher refresh rates. Talking of which, the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor can support refresh rates as high as 175Hz, though at a lower bit depth to fit within the DisplayPort 1.4 bandwidth of 32.4 gigabits per second, while the LG42C2 is capped at 120Hz but with a maximum resolution of 3480x2160 thanks to its full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports. And the presence of HDMI 2.1 ports and a 16:9 screen are the reasons why the LG42C2 is more suitable for console gaming than the Alienware QD-OLED monitor, whose 21:9 aspect ratio means there will be black bars running down the sides. Both screens exhibited VRR flicker in certain games, but when capped at 120Hz, it's significantly less noticeable on the Alienware AW3423DW, even though for some reason our camera made the flicker look worse than in person. In the presence of ambient light, the LG42C2 was able to maintain deep blacks and high contrast, whereas blacks on the Alienware QD-OLED monitor would turn grey due to the lack of a polarizer within the QD-OLED panel, leading to lower contrast performance in a bright room. Let's sum up. This video is sponsored by Box, the online technology store. Visit box.co.uk for the best deals on TVs, soundbars, and all your other technology needs. Both the LG42C2 and the Alienware AW3423DW monitor have their own strengths and weaknesses, but ignoring personal preferences, we think the Alienware is the wiser buy for PC gaming. It can go up to 175Hz, has higher peak brightness and a more relaxed ABL with no annoying auto-dimming behavior, as well as higher color luminance, and it behaves like a monitor in terms of going into standby and powering up without you needing to use a remote control to do so. On the other hand, if you are also spending time on an HDMI 2.1 console such as the Sony PS5 or the Xbox Series X, then the LG42C2 is undoubtedly the more versatile choice because of its 4K resolution, 16:9 screen, and its HDMI 2.1 ports which support 4K 120Hz Dolby Vision, VRR, ALM, HDRG, and so on and so forth. Of course, personal preferences come into play too. For some of you, maybe it's too big, or maybe you don't like it curved. Another factor to consider is the PS5-like stock shortage of the Alienware AW3423DW. I placed an order on launch day in March in the UK, yet my shipment has repeatedly been delayed, and I still don't have the monitor in hand at the time I filmed this video in May 2022. The 42-inch LG C2 is certainly more readily available to buy, at least in the UK. Now, the reason why the release of the 42-inch LG C2 has been delayed in other countries may be caused by something strange I discovered on the 42C2 despite being branded as OLED Evo, and you can find out what it is by watching my full review here.